This show never ceases to surprise me, and I get inspired inspiring you with new and different conversations each and every episode. And I always enjoy everyone that I speak with, but from time to time, I get that one guest who just cracks me up practically the entire interview. Nevertheless, all while sharing very impressive and significant insight on what they do. So as Black History Month concludes, I thought, who better to close it out on an upbeat note from a hidden figure of sorts, what I call a behind the scenes in plain sight individual who played a significant role in the safety of our astronauts traveling into space. Her name is Sharon McDougle. Sharon was a spacesuit technician with Boeing Aerospace Operations. She worked as a flight equipment processing team member in the Space Shuttle Crew Escape Equipment Department. And eventually, Sharon McDougle became a crew chief in that same department. That was no surprise to me after hearing how meticulous and thorough she was. But her claim to fame, besides being an author of a children's book, was punctuated with being the spacesuit technician assigned to the likes of Dr. Mae Jemison, the first African-American woman to travel into space, as well as a few other well-known African-American astronauts like Dr. Bernard Harris, Frederick Gregory, and Charles Bolden. Hi, my name is Vince Mickens, and welcome to All Things Aviation and Aerospace. Sharon, welcome to All Things Aviation and Aerospace.
Thank you so much for the invitation. Appreciate it.
Well, it's great to have you here. But I want to go back to, as they say, way back.
Way back.
I want to go back to the beginning with you. Mm-hmm. You are from a small town in Mississippi.
Yes.
So small, as a matter of fact, I had to look it up. And I see it's down near, just north of Pascagoula.
Right. It's like right next door. We're like almost one and the same.
So Moss Point, Mississippi is where you're from.
Yes,
and
sir.
Moss Point, Mississippi currently has about 12,000 people. So when we say small, we're talking small. Tell us about your origins of coming from Moss Point and how that started to formulate the direction that you ended up going.
Of course. So I'm from a large family. I'm number 9 of 12 children.
Wow.
And yes. And then I lost both my parents at a very, very early age. My father passed away when I was 4 years old, and my mother was killed in a car accident when I was 7.
Oh, wow. I'm very sorry to hear that.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. And so it was a little rough. I had to live with my oldest sister and her family, and she already, she's married with her little kids, and she had 5 kids already, and they were all younger than 7. So it was like I became a grown-up overnight. I had to all of a sudden start taking on a lot of responsibilities. All the brothers and sisters was kind of shipped off to the older brothers and sisters. And so I had to live with her, and I had to just like grow up overnight. I had never done anything because I had all these older brothers and sisters, right? So now I'm a big girl, taking on a lot of responsibilities, cooking, cleaning, combing hair, and school was my refuge. So that's how I excelled, I think, because I loved school so much, and the teachers gave me that extra love and affection that I wasn't getting anymore. As a little kid, like I used to get from my mom.
Sure.
So I wanted to do good more so to impress them than just for me to get good grades and, for my career to move on. I wasn't even thinking about that. I'm like, oh, the teachers are going to make a big deal if I get a good grade. So I'm really going to try hard,
Yeah, well, that's great inspiration, though.
Yes, and it did. And they noticed one teacher in particular, Mrs. Jennings, my 2nd grade teacher. And I'm sure, like I said, a small town, I'm sure they heard that my mother was killed. And so she went out of her way, and she gave me extra hugs, extra attention, little pats on the head.
Isn't it wonderful when it's that one teacher or one person in your life that makes all the difference in the world?
She made all the difference, because I didn't know what depression was then, but I know I was depressed. I didn't talk for a long time after my mom got killed. I was just real stoic. And I was always that kid that raised her hand in class, excited, happy. And then all of a sudden I'm just staring out the window at school. I'm just going through the motions. I just didn't understand. And the way it happened, when my mom got killed, nobody even sat me down and said, hey, mom's gone to heaven, or mom got in a car accident. So I didn't even know my mom was dead. I just thought, where is she? You know?
Oh my gosh.
And so I'm seeing everybody
That's
being
pretty
kind of
traumatic.
somber. Yeah, it was. And know how I found out? The day of the funeral. They put all the kids on the
Oh
front
wow.
row. I walk in and I see this big long box, in front of the room. And then I kind of, tiptoe, and I was like, it looks like my mom, but you're all pale. And then when I realized, I kept looking, I was like, that is my mom. And I just held my head down. And one of my sisters laughed the whole time because I realized now what was going on. I done pieced it together. So like I said, I never had that talk. So that kind of messed me up a little bit. And the day that it happened, my mom, she gave me life, and then she saved my life too. Because the day of the accident, when she got in the car, she was going to get some seafood from the local market. And usually when I see her grab her purse and keys, I jump in the front seat, right? And I did it automatically. I had a box of Cracker Jacks. Remember, like it's yesterday. Box of Cracker Jacks. I had my legs folded up under me. I was sitting on the front seat. And this is the real station wagons back in the day, right?
Yep.
The
Rear
steel,
seat facing the back. Yeah.
yeah, big old heavy duty. Cause we didn't have minivans. So I jumped in the front seat. I got my Cracker Jacks, and she got in the car, and she paused, and she's like, "You stay here this time, baby." It's like that, and I said she knew something. She had never told me to stay here, get out the car, and stay here. So I pouted for a minute till she gave me that mama look, and then I got my butt out the car. And
Wow.
and not even, and like I said, the blocks aren't big because it's small, a little small town. So about, I want to say maybe 3 blocks from our house, she almost made it home.
Mm.
It
Wow.
had rained just a little bit to slick the streets, and this guy under the influence hit her and killed her.
Yeah, that's a shame. That's a tough beginning, but you
Yeah.
you persevered in school, and as you were finishing high school,
Yeah.
you were trying to figure out what you wanted to do next. What I want to ask you though is, did space fit in there, or space exploration come to mind at all while you were in high school, or was that something that came about later, after you decided to? Well, I'll let you tell the story.
Yeah. So space, I always tell when I do my little talks, I tell them, you know what? There was never that moment when I was lying out on a grassy knoll, staring up into the stars. Like one day, I'm going to work for the space program. Never, never
Mm.
crossed my mind in a million years. Even when the science teachers, I love science, but I would never thought that I wasn't even interested in working for the space program. It wasn't, small town. Nobody was talking about Apollo and
But you
nothing.
were interested in going to college, right?
I was interested in going to college, yes.
Right.
And then
Yeah.
I thought, I was told, because my dad had served in the Army, that there was some kind of program that would pay for me to go to school since he had passed away. So I was
Mm.
thinking in my mind, that's how I'm going to college all that time.
Okay.
Social Security or something. I don't know I forgot what they told me, but they was like, oh yeah, yep, you'll be able to, they'll pay for your school. So I was thinking I'm going to college. And so I was thinking along the lines of, because I did love kids, and which is why I wrote Chisholm, but I did love kids. So I was thinking maybe kindergarten teacher. And then I got a chance to fly on an airplane, and I saw the flight attendants, and I was like, they're so helpful and nice and pretty. Maybe I could do that. So, it's like I didn't really know what I wanted to do yet.
Okay.
I have a firm grasp. So I call him my knight in shining armor. The Air Force recruiter came and spoke to our class my senior year. I think it was around October, November-ish. And he made it sound so wonderful. He was like, you can travel, you can have this great job, you can go to school, we'll pay for your schooling. And as soon as he said that, I was like, raise my hand. And I was ready to sign up right then. And he was like, no, you can't sign up right today.
Right.
That February on my 18th birthday, which is tomorrow, when you on my 18th birthday, I actually went down to his office and enlisted in the Air Force. They wanted me to come in early, but I had the grades, of course. But my principal didn't want to set that precedence and start letting people graduate early and everything. And I'm glad she didn't. And this is where people were set in place for me. Of course, my sister took, let me live with her as a child, the teachers along the way, and then the Air Force recruiter. And then by my principal not letting me graduate early, it set me up to have the amazing job that I did end up with.
So when you listed in the Air Force,
Mhm.
how did you end up in the job that you got? You ended up as a, what was it called?
Aerospace
Aerospace
physiology.
physiology specialist.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
So you take a test. For those that don't know, before you enter the military, you have to take a test, some type of kind of like an
Aptitude
aptitude
test,
test.
yes.
And it's got different sections. So they look at your strengths and weaknesses and they place you in the career they think is best. And of course, positions that they need to fill as well, not just what they think you're best for.
Right.
So the first job they offered me was the air traffic controller. And that's where it comes in, where I'm glad that my principal didn't let me graduate early, because I would have been an air traffic controller. Because that's back when Reagan was trying to bring in air traffic. They were on strike.
Right. I
And they were trying
remember.
to bring them
Yes.
in and get military people trained up to go take those positions, take over. And so I found out later that's highly stressful. You know, I didn't know at that time, of course, I didn't know what an air traffic controller was.
Yeah.
And so I'm glad she denied my graduating early, else I would have been in a loony bin probably somewhere after I'd crashed 5,000 aircraft. So, so the next career option that came up that matched.
But it was kind of near aviation. But go ahead.
It was. Well, Air Force.
Yes, exactly.
So the next job that came up was aerospace physiology. And of course, I was like, I don't know what that is, but I'm ready to go. I'm ready to leave Mississippi and see what else is out in the world. And like I said, I planned to go to college. That was my plan. That's why I joined the Air Force. But then they gave me this amazing job. And they gave
You
me this
fell in
amazing.
love with it, huh?
Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh.
So your first
Yeah.
responsibilities with that job, you dealt with like pressure suits for like the SR-71 and things like that.
Yep. So my real AFSC, my Air Force Specialty Code, I think that's what it stands for. My real career was with aerospace physiology, was the hypobaric and the hyperbaric chambers. So the one that goes altitude and the one that dies below sea level. That was my real career. But by being stationed at Beale Air Force Base, the home of the SR-71 and U-2 reconnaissance aircraft.
Biplanes.
Yes, there you go. Special duty, extra duty was working with the pressure suits, which was the fun part, because the chambers were some kind of boring. I just want you to know. I'm so glad the planes were there, because I probably would have left at the first term if I had to just do chambers another 4 years. So that was a fun part. And then we traveled every 2 months. So I was there for 7 years, but I was really there 3.5, because every 2 months we rotate to a different detachment in support of aircraft pilots.
What was the difference between, I'm just digressing for a quick sec, the difference between working with the pressure chambers and working with pilots and aircraft?
So much. It's just so much better. With the chambers, it's kind of like a flight simulator. So you're sitting there on the outside, or you're an inside observer as an aerospace physiology specialist. And you teach classes as well. So you're sitting out there driving, and you're just sitting in a chair, and they've got 2 little gauges. And so you're going up or down. This goes on. Now, inside observer is a little more activity, because you're in there with actual students, the pilots. You take them up to a certain altitude. They remove their mask so they can get the feel what hypoxia feels like.
Right.
And you have them do simple tasks like bank left, bank right, or give them the toy with the different shapes and see if they can put the right design into right shape into each hole. Little things like that, and we'll record it so they can.
What seems like basic stuff, but very important when you're under that. Condition.
It's very important, to let them see what will happen, and to let them know that's why you need to keep your mask on. Don't be trying to be cool having it hanging off the side of your face. Because
what no Top Gun stuff?
No, because hypoxia can take over so quick and you won't even realize it.
Right.
And there you are, killing yourself, and worse, killing other people too, because you done crashed plane because you can't control your plane now.
Yeah. So I've heard you be interviewed on other shows and things like that. One of the things I haven't heard anybody ask you, so I'm going to take the opportunity to do so. You had to have some training when you first entered the Air Force and entered into this specialty, which I think is key from 2 perspectives. One, you were already really good with school when you were in high school. So what was it like going through the training courses that you had to take before you actually stepped into the job?
So the School of Aerospace Medicine at Brooks Air Force Base is where we received our classroom training.
Okay.
The job itself is basically on the job training. Once you get to your unit,
okay,
senior people there will train you.
So you learn the theory and everything at the school,
no.
and then you do on-the-job training to really learn how to put it all in play.
Yes, because remember, the pressure suits were extra duty. Any other base I would have went to, I would have just been altitude chamber and dive chamber.
Okay.
I being stationed at Beale, the suits were there. So that's why we got to do that extra duty. But yeah, they train us on how to be instructors at the School of Aerospace Medicine. to talk about aerospace physiology to the pilots and the students. And also, the chamber operations. We had to know how to be a crew chief to operate it, how to go and check the oil on it and, whatever maintenance type stuff. And also the dive chamber. We were really in the medical side of the house. We were in the hospital squadron.
Okay.
Under the Strategic Air Command because of the aircraft.
Yeah. Well, I was just going to say, though, besides the technical part, a big piece of it is how you interact with the pilots.
Yes.
And you seem to have a knack for that starting back then that carried all the way through. When we finally get to NASA, we'll talk about that. But even then, pilots, have reputations. We're known to be, a little bit cocky sometimes and things like that. But you seem, from the background I saw on you, the photos I've seen and things like that, your pilots seem to like you.
I had such a great rapport because overall, I'm a happy person and I'll talk to them. You know how a lot of times you'll be around senior members or officers and you kind of be like, yes, sir, no, sir. And I talk to them like they're a regular person. I just chat with them. I'm here putting your suit on. I'm down on my knees, putting your foot in and putting your foot in. And so I'm not just going to be stoic and just be like, put your foot in, sir, sir. I was still myself and they appreciated it. And I would hear that over and over. I'm so glad you're the one putting me in this suit or stuffing me in this suit today. Because, I just chat. I'll ask them, so how many kids you got, blah, blah, blah. You got a Corvette, And once I find out stuff about them, then we'll keep connecting. And every time our relationship will grow and grow and grow.
Yeah. So you put them in the suit, they would go fly. And did you also have to deal with them when they came back off of the trip?
Yeah. What happens is with the SR-71, they would fly about 2.5 hours. So the process was I'd have to go out and load the survival kit and the parachute into the aircraft. So I got in the aircraft all the time. I didn't get to fly, but I got in it all the time.
Right.
I had to load that equipment in. I'd go back to back to our building. The crew members, they'll eat dinner or breakfast, usually steak and eggs, stuff like that. And they come down, do a quick physical, check their pulse and their blood pressure. They put on their undies and they had a urinary collection device that they would put on. Then we'd have the suits laid out on the floor and they'd come in, sit down in the lazy boy. And that's when you start suiting them up. So one leg at a time, one arm at a time, pop their head through, stand up. The zipper starts all the way at the very back here, comes all the way around to the front and snap. Have you been in a pressure suit, Vince?
I have never worn a pressure suit.
Okay, because I'll say I don't need to explain it to you.
No, but this is for our audience. So it's great that you're explaining it.
So yeah, so it's like that. And you can it's more difficult to put it on by yourself. So, we're there to make it a little easier and to tell them about it and train them about the different parts and pieces as well. So once they get the suit on, we immediately put their boots on and after just zipping them up and everything. And then we put the communications cap and in the Air Force, it was just a helmet it housed the communications, the microphones and everything in the helmet.
It was already part of the helmet.
Everything. And then they even had the little section where they could pop their glasses in. They would have shorter arms and they would slide into the Velcro. So if they needed to wear glasses.
Yeah.
And then it was a face seal instead of a neck seal like the astronaut suit. It was around their face.
Gotcha. Yeah. So it's pretty technical. And I guess one of the questions I would ask too, I would imagine you had to be familiar with the aircraft system specific to the suit.
Yeah, well, it's just, and it was so tight too. Yeah. So what happens is once I suited them up in the suit room and I have to test to make sure the suit pressurized, their oxygen is flowing and everything before I take them out to the aircraft. It's a tall ladder that goes up to the aircraft, and anybody familiar with the SR-71, it's up a little high. So it was called a how down. The ladder had a platform. So we'd walk, they had liquid oxygen that they would hook up to their suit to keep them cool. And it's a big old yellow box that you probably seen crew members carrying when they're in the suit.
Yeah.
We would carry the box, walk up behind them, up the stairs. They'd step into the cockpit. Then I would lie down on the how down. Most times somebody had to hold my feet because I was tiny. I was a little bitty thing, about 100 pounds. And I would have to hook up. They had spurs on the floor of the aircraft. And this would hook up to their boots. They had the spurs on their boots, I'm sorry. And then there was some little balls on a cable that you hook up to the spurs. And that was in case they had to eject, it would automatically snap their feet back. So their legs aren't flailing and get chopped off in the process of bailing out, ejecting. So that's the first thing. Okay.
I was going to ask you, how long did you do this in the Air Force before you started transitioning to the civilian world?
7 years.
Okay.
In a couple of months, but 7 years.
And what was that transition like?
It
So
was
you
hard.
come out of the well, first of all, what made you decide to come out of the Air Force after only 7 years? I
Thank
say
you.
only because,
No, oh, I was planning on. I was what GI Jane. I loved the Air Force. I loved my job, but things started changing at my unit, and I really felt like somebody was gonna get hurt. It turned into a retirement home.
mm,
So all the old heads that were about to retire, the like senior, triple senior master sergeants, so whatever the ranks were back then, they would come to our unit. This started like my second enlistment, second after I reenlisted. People just started coming there like I said, like a retirement home before they got out. They came there, and in the military, because you got the most stripes, you're over somebody that knows everything and been there a long time.
right,
So they put this guy over me. All he does is walk around with a coffee cup, right? I pretty much give him a tour of the building. So he doesn't even know the suits and all this. And I know they put him with me because I was good at what I did, and they knew he wouldn't have to worry about nothing because I know what I'm doing. And so he's now watching me. He's gonna make sure I hook up a crew member right in the aircraft. He's gonna make sure I'm doing my job right. He's looking over my work. So
right. And
I could
taken
have
so much
been,
pride in what you do, you
yeah.
didn't need that kind of oversight.
But just the fact that he didn't even put forth no effort to even really try to learn anything.
Right,
He's like I say, one of a coffee cup guy. We're just waiting his time out. But they had to give him something to do. And he's out of the aircraft. And, once you strap in, somebody else, since he's supposed to be over me, the supervisor because of his rank, he just looks in. He doesn't even do any manual check to make sure things are, should be
connected,
fastened and
working.
connected.
Yeah,
I mean, mind you, I would never do nothing like that on purpose. But I said if I was that kind of person, for them to just give people that title just because they have more stripes,
yeah. And
and now they're watching
so
over
you
license
were
thing.
very concerned about the completion of your work and the safety for
Yes,
the people you were doing it for.
yes.
So that actually is, it's unfortunate that you experienced that, but you went ahead and you got out. And then, did you know when you got out that you would want to continue to do or have an opportunity to continue to do something similar to what you were doing in the Air Force?
I had no idea of this. I was struggling. When I got out, I thought, I'm so awesome. I'm gonna get jobs just flying left and right coming my way. Not one. I'll remind you, I was stationed in California, so it was expensive too. And I had never been a real grown up, a real adult, because I had been under Uncle Sam. I'm living in
Mm,
a dorm, I'm on base. I've never paid, nothing but my car note and my car insurance. I mean, everything on base is free. You eat
right.
free. So I had never really been an adult after I started thinking about it. So when I left the Air Force, I was like, I didn't think this through.
When we're young, a lot of us don't. So
Yeah, you just jump and do stuff,
you just do things. And when we get older, we think too much, but that's another conversation.
right? And so I got out and I'm like, what am I gonna do? So a friend of mine, he was on assignment for 30 days. So he let me stay at his place while he was gone out of town. Thank goodness, because I really don't know what I would have did. So I stayed at his place till he got back. And then my roommate from the Air Force, she was already out prior to I got out, prior to me getting out. And she had an apartment in Sacramento. So she let me bunk on her couch, on her futon, which was hard,
Thank goodness for friends, huh?
right? And we're still in touch, both of them.
How long did you have to do that before you landed
Ooh,
your next opportunity?
I had to do it for 6 months.
Okay, probably felt like forever though.
It really did. Because I had 3 part-time jobs. I was cleaning the office building at night. I was putting price tags on clothes for a local department store. And I always say, remind me of like probably what child labor would look like, in a hot building. And then the other job was working in the Office Depot stocking shelves. Because nobody would hire me full time. They didn't want to get benefits.
So that brings up a couple of things. One, Sharon, that had to be really tough for you mentally
It
when you were
was.
so good at what you did while you were serving in the Air Force.
Yep.
You were at the top of your game,
Yes,
so to
sir.
speak. So that had to be really tough. But the other aspect of it, it brings up that subject that, this was a while back, but uh, the opportunities for veterans or lack thereof
Yes.
once they have finished serving and how that transition comes into play
Mhm.
as a civilian and things like that. And it sounds like you got a real hard taste of that.
I
along
did.
with the fact that it was probably messing with your head that, hey, I'm good at something and I can't do it right now. So,
You hit the nail
but
on the head.
6 months later, what happened?
Boy, I tell you, another person set in place, another angel. One of my friends that was at the Physiological Support Division with me, PSD.
I'm gonna do an angel count because they're adding up. But
It's
go
a,
ahead.
I'm telling you, you can't. Nobody's been successful without having people helping them. I don't care what they say.
I agree with you
Somehow,
wholeheartedly.
yes, sir. And so now I'm struggling. I'm getting no sleep. I have no benefits to go to the doctor, the dentist, or anything. And sleep, like I said, sleeping on my friend's futon. I don't even have my own phone because that's before cell phones, right? I don't have a number for nobody to call me or emails. That wasn't all. So anyway, Ray Villalobos, he and I were best buddies at my unit when we were at PSD and at Beale Air Force Base. He had already been gone and we had kind of lost touch. You know how it happens, but
Right.
we would be friends. But an immediate opening can't happen. Another guy moved on to Lockheed. This is when we were still Boeing. And Ray tracked me down. Like I said, before Google and Facebook and all this, he remembered my room. This is years. He remembered my roommate from the Air Force name and looked in the phone book for her.
The old phone book.
Yeah.
Who does that anymore?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And he found Lisa. Hey, Lisa Harrison. She let me bump for free. I mean, I gave it a little bit I could, but I didn't really have much. But anyway, Ray Villalobos, that's my boy right there. He could have called anybody else that was prior Air Force, but he remembered my work ethic, and he called me and he said, "Call this number immediately and talk to the supervisor. They have a job opening doing the exact same thing we did in the Air Force."
Yeah.
Is it not God and the angel? Yes, it is. I always say it's my parents watching over me. I always say that's what it was,
So you got a position there
over the phone. Didn't even come. Didn't you know how you usually fly out for an interview and then
they
fly out for a
really
second
were
interview?
desperate, huh?
Our job actually started back then after the Challenger accident, so it was still fairly new. It was about
Okay.
3 years, yeah. And then they had been coming out. I was told they'd been coming out to our unit recruiting people, but I guess I was on TDY, temporary duty assignment, in another country or something when they did it. I didn't even know that they did that. Else,
Okay.
I would have checked there.
Yeah, yeah.
But anyway, Ray called me, and the rest is history. I talked to this guy. They had already made up their mind because Ray had already vouched for me, Ray Villalobos. And he said, just call this number right now. And I did. First, I was like, for what? It wasn't clicking because I was so sleep deprived.
So what was the job? What'd you end up doing?
I ended up being Spacesuit Technician Extraordinaire. Come on.
And this was Boeing Aerospace Operations.
Boeing Aerospace Operations.
Flight equipment, what'd you say? Flight equipment processing.
Yes, sir. That was the
Okay.
contract. And our home base was out of Seattle, but we were in Houston, of course. And we took care of all of the flight equipment. So in our building wasn't just our department, the crew escape equipment department. You had the white suit, the white space suit, it was down the hall. You had the electronics lab, so people that had to take apart like the microphones and all that, they were in that building. The people that
Is the white suit the one for doing spacewalks?
Yes, that's a EMU,
Okay.
mobility unit.
Gotcha.
That
all
was
right.
down the hall. So we're all in this. That's why we had the contract. We had all of it. We had the largest. We were the largest contractors for the space shuttle side for NASA.
And the orange suit is what was that called again?
It was called the launch entry suit, and then it went on to become the advanced crew escape suit, ACES.
Gotcha.
Yeah, but launch entry suit is what it is. It's for launch and for when they enter back into the Earth's
So
atmosphere.
tell me about your transition. In the Air Force, you dealt with pressure suits, which is very similar to spacesuits. But tell me about your transitions from what you did in the Air Force for like the SR-71 and the U-2, and what you were doing now that you were at this Boeing Aerospace operation that was contracting with NASA.
Okay. The first thing I want you to know is that the NASA got the suits from the Air Force. So that's where the suits came from. So it's the same suit, just changed the cover pretty much.
Bingo.
Yes.
Okay.
So I don't know if you remember seeing, I don't know if you remember seeing the older astronaut pictures. They had on a kind of a gold cover. It was kind of a goldish cover. It wasn't orange. It wasn't always orange. So the
Right.
first guys, they wore the same, it was the Air Force suit. Ours
I
is
do
the,
remember those. Yeah, I
yeah,
remember
like
more.
guy blue
Honestly, I
fur.
remember more from watching things, but yes.
Yeah, yeah, of course, yeah. Like when they had the guy blue for
Because I
Frederick
was a
Gregory,
baby when that. No, I'm just kidding.
whatever. Yeah, we had our first three black astronauts. They all have a picture with the gold suits on,
Hmm.
which, like I said, are the SR-71 suits. But the suits are the same. So it was a very easy transition as far as the suit part. The hard part for me was way civilians worked. Very
Okay.
slow, very, especially in the space program, very laid back. Oh, we got to let the engineer look at it. We got to let this person look at it. We're in the Air Force, you're everything. You're the engineer, the technician, the quality inspector, you do it all. Once you initial it, right here, that's who they're coming to. There's nobody else to come to.
Yeah.
You do the work.
You know,
You're all everything.
shortly after you started that, it was only a few years, I think maybe 4 years or something,
Mm-hmm.
and you became a what's the supervisor? Chief.
Crew chief.
You became
Crew
a crew
chief.
chief.
Yes.
Yeah.
The
So
first
you were in
black
charge
and
of
the
a
first
group of
woman crew
folks that
chief.
were, suiting up astronauts.
Mm-hmm. So now I'm not on the team. I'm leading the team of technicians that train the astronauts on the suits, that go suit up the astronauts for all of they have about approximately 30 training events before they actually go into space with the suited events is what they were called. So they'd get suited up. We'd have to go over there, suit them up, show them the proper way to package it up and put it away once they get to space, show them the easy way, because we're not going to be in space, right? So we show them the way, buddy system, how they can help each other. And then they're going to have no gravity. So it's going to be moving on them. So we show them the proper way to not bang it up and beat it up so bad and make it easier for them while they're here on Earth, of course,
Yeah.
and not to damage our gear so much because we have to repair it.
Yeah, one of the things with dealing with space exploration and everything, and I'm preaching to the choir here, but I want you to talk about it.
Yeah.
But one of the things that happens with space exploration is it's constantly evolving in terms of the technology. And I'm sure with all of the years that you did this with NASA, that you were part of that evolving technology,
Yeah.
and I bring it up for a couple of reasons. One, was there ongoing training with that when something new or a new design would come out? How did that work?
Just like you just said, the engineers, of course, would come down and they'd get with the senior technicians and we'd look at everything together. It was a team. It was truly a team because we're the ones that know what's going on with the suit. We're the ones taking it apart and putting it back together and testing it, right? So when some new prototypes or changes are going on, they automatically come down to the lab where we're actually working and we go through it and we actually write the procedures step by step while we're working on it. Because we're doing the work. They'll have a basic foundation of what they think should be happening, but we have to go in and tweak it and say, no, you need to put that pressure there, or that torque should be 10 inch-pounds instead of 8 inch-pounds, or things like that.
Sure.
And work through it and make sure everything is smooth. And then we'll do a test run and tweak it some more, test and retest until you get it right. But that's how it happened. We didn't have a lot of changes with the suit while I was there. Thank goodness.
Okay. Yeah. How important was feedback from the astronauts from their experiences after they've gone out on a mission, gone in orbit or even, just the various missions that they would go out on? In other words, would they mention something to you and then maybe you told the engineers, or how did that happen?
Yeah. Yeah. And it's rare because they train a whole year before they go. So it's rare for them to have any feedback after the actual mission because we've gone through this suit with the fine tooth comb before they go.
Tons of rehearsals.
And something exactly a bunch of dress rehearsals. Up until the last 2 weeks, they actually do a practice launch, terminal countdown demonstration test, TCDT, where they actually go down and go through everything except actually launching. But they practice their emergency escapes, like if they had smoke in the cabin and things like that, scenarios. So, but anyway, with the suit, it's rarely anything because, like I said, they practice so much. And the suits, I'm working on them. So there you go. Nothing's going to be wrong with the suit.
Of course. I should know, right? If you should have asked somebody. No.
Right? You gotta ask somebody.
The biggest thing that I try to do with this program is inspire the up and coming generation and let them know, most importantly, of the ton of opportunities that are available in all aspects of both aerospace and aviation overall. Just is that, and being more specific with aerospace and space exploration, and you coming through the grassroots way that you have,
Yes.
and the fact that you actually have taken an active role now in inspiring, not expiring, inspiring young people. I don't know where that came from, but anyhow, what's your overview with that about, a kid in middle school, high school,
Mhm.
that's trying to figure out what they want to do, and what maybe they do have an interest in space, or from what they've seen, especially with the things that have been going on as of late. What's
Yeah.
your take on that?
I would tell any kid, the sooner the better if you know what you want to do. I was very fortunate. Like I said, I had totally unconventional. It'll probably never happen like that for anybody again, the way it happened with me. But if you know as soon as you can what you want to do, that would be best, because then you could start focusing on that, zooming in on just that, and finding out what class you need to take for that career. And also reaching out. It's so many paths now as far as people you can contact to be your mentors. Man, LinkedIn alone, social media, you can reach out to people that's doing what you want to do. And pretty much I'm thinking, I would say, I don't know for sure, but I'm thinking probably about 90% of the people will be like, yes, I'll be your mentor. You got any questions?
Oh,
Call
I
me.
agree with I
Yeah.
no, I agree with you
Yeah.
totally about that. I always tell people that people in the industry, people in space exploration, people in
Mm-hmm.
aviation, we like to talk,
Yes.
and we like to mentor. All you got to do is ask. I tell young
That's
people
it.
that all the time.
Just
Don't be
reach
shy.
out. No, don't be. You can't be shy. And I'm with several organizations mentoring, so I'll be wild. But I tell them, and ask me any. I tell them I'm an open book. I'm an open book, and I always make sure they know, because most of the organizations are focused on getting the kids in college. But I always make sure they know. Look, I didn't go to college, but I still have a lot of wisdom. I just want to make sure it's not they don't think that I'm
Well, there's
trying to
different
front.
paths for different kids. And
Yeah, yeah,
so
yeah.
for some kids, they can, go to an MIT and do great,
Mm-hmm.
and things like that. And then there's other kids that college is just not an
Yeah.
appeal, but they still, and I think this is the critical point.
Mm-hmm.
They really want to do something, for example, in space exploration, but they
Mm-hmm.
automatically cancel themselves because
Yes.
they're like, well, I don't want to go and get an aerospace degree. I'm not up to that. Well, you can be a technician, you
Anything.
can do a 2-year program, you can get a certification.
So many
I
options.
had a couple of years ago a young lady that went to become a airframe and power plant mechanic, an A&P,
That's what I'm talking about.
2-year program, and then she got hired by SpaceX.
See,
And even I was like, okay, I didn't know SpaceX hired, A&Ps,
another great reason to reach
airframe and
out to
power plant.
people.
But if you think about it, it kind of makes sense, because if you
Yeah.
specialize in airframe and power plant stuff, and
Mm-hmm.
with what SpaceX does, well, yeah, okay, that
Yeah.
that is so. And we could go on, and I'm sure
Oh
you can
yeah.
chime in on
I'll
that as
give you a
well.
prime example, Vince. When I started my career, you would have never known that suit tech job existed, because it was listed in the system as electromechanical technician.
Oh wow,
You would have thought that was an electrician, not a suit tech. So you're
right,
probably not going to even read any further when you see that title, right? So
yeah.
it's like they were titling these things to weed people out, folks that's not going to read all the way or something. I don't know, but I wouldn't have read that if I didn't have an inside person like Ray Villalobos calling me and let me know. I probably would have never been here. I probably would have never been here.
Yeah, I hear you on that loud and clear. And the other part is that we see, so even today, when we see a launch and we see all these people in a room with the
Mm-hmm.
astronauts prepping them, we don't know what those people do. We kind
Exactly.
of know they're doing something, supportive and significant, but we don't know what their specific jobs are.
Mm-hmm.
And that's one of the goals that I do with this program, is to try to say,
That's
hey,
good.
you know, this is here's what you can do if you're in the astronaut support area versus
Mm-hmm.
if you're in mission control, or things of that nature.
Yep. And I let them know. Look, my husband's a scuba diver over at the NBL, the Neutral Buoyancy Lab. He's the only black. There's been other. I think it was two others before him, but and you wouldn't think about that as a career. I'm
Right.
gonna go be a scuba diver in the pool with astronauts training. So
Right.
they need to see it and know about it, that these
Yeah.
opportunities are there. Suit tech. I would never thought of a suit tech until the Air Force gave me that opportunity. I didn't know what that was, you
So
know?
Sharon, where did the inspiration come from? When did you decide I'm going to write a book? I'm going to write a book for kids.
Vince, I have been reading to kids since I've been with my sister's kids. I love reading to kids. So what happened is I've always wanted to write a children's book, but while I was still working with the space program, I didn't know how much red tape I would have to go through. You can't say this or that, or you know what I'm saying? So I
Oh,
put it
I
on
know
the
exactly
burner.
what you're saying.
Yeah, yeah. So I was like, you know what? I'm not going to mess with it right now. I'm gonna wait. And then it kind of got just pushed back really, really far, and I wasn't thinking about it. And then when Mr. COVID hit, I was
Mm.
like, I ain't got no perfect time. I think everybody
COVID
wrote
did
books
that
during
to a lot
COVID.
of people.
Yeah, a lot of people wrote books, but it was the perfect time. I had in my mind because it's what I did for almost 30 years was the
Yeah.
suit. And so I would go out to schools while I was with the space program. What they were lovely about letting you do community service. I would take the actual equipment, the harness, the suit, everything, the helmet, pressurize the suit, let the kids be like, oh, and pique their interest to be thinking about maybe I can work with the space program and then
Right.
on my path. And so I was like, you know what? I'm gonna just write a book because I'm not gonna be going out to the schools with the space program anymore. But I was always volunteering reading other people's books. And I was like, you know what? I'm gonna go ahead and write my book. I got time now. I'm sitting at home. I'm doing it. Wrote it in an hour on pencil and paper.
Wow. Tell us about your book. Tell us what's in it.
Suit Up for Launch with Shay. The premise of the book is it's going to tell you all about the orange pressure suit the astronauts wear when they launch into space on the space shuttle. And the Artemis suit is very similar. They made a few changes, but it's pretty much for the same thing. So the suit, the premise is a mother and daughter. The daughter wants to play dress up, and she lands on astronaut. And her mom, being a former suit technician, makes it a teachable moment and said, before we play dress up, I got to tell you all about that suit. So I go through the different layers and what it's used for and how fast they're going to go to space. How do they go to the bathroom in it? Why is it orange, mama? How long does it take to put it on, mama?
And this is all in kids' terms.
Yes, yes, so they can understand. But
What age range is this book for?
I would say 4 to 11.
Okay. So
But
elementary school,
yes,
kind of
anybody that has an interest in space.
pre-K to, yeah.
I'm serious, grown-ups, I get more feedback from them saying, I didn't know that. I didn't know that. Some little behind the scenes stuff.
I
Yeah.
know. As much familiarity as I have with stuff, I find myself doing that too and going,
Yeah.
oh, well, that's interesting. I didn't
Right.
know that. That happened with me about being a space architect. I actually had never really even heard the term.
Right. Me
And a
neither.
lot of times when you say space architect, people say, oh, so you mean like your living room or your some
Right.
part of your home or apartment or whatever. It's like, no, space, as in
Yeah.
building, habitats for people to
Space
live
station.
in
That's right.
on another planet or to
Mhm.
orbit or things of that nature. So yeah.
Exactly.
So we're always learning if you really think about
Always.
it. Yeah.
Always.
Yeah. Well, this has been really great to talk with you. I feel like I could talk with you an entire show and
Yes,
just
sir.
talk about everything that you've experienced. But I have to say hats off to you for coming from a humble background and with traumatic circumstances
Yeah.
and just pushing forward and then turning it into a really impressive career
Thank you.
that has had substantial impact on the space industry. A spacesuit technician, but hey, that keeps people alive.
Yes.
So
And I was the
uh,
only Black woman in my department too.
and there you go.
Yeah.
And so a couple of things about that. Let me just touch on that while we have a couple of minutes. You've met some astronauts, and Black astronauts, which
Yeah.
is, there's not very many.
Yeah.
What was that experience like for you to suit up Mae Jemison
Oh
or
my goodness.
Dr.
Of
Bernard
course, that is
Harris and
definitely at
folks like
one
that?
of the top three for sure. So let me walk you through. So anyway, I got there in 1990,
Right.
just in time. Dr. Jemison got assigned in 1991. She comes in for her fit check. There's a room full of white people and me, it's a small room because it's a fit check room. She walks in. I don't think she saw me at first because it was kind of crammed in there. And so I directed, I just directed her to the closet to put on her underwear so she could come back out. Underwear like the long johns, y'all, not
Right.
regular
Yeah, I
underwear.
got you.
Yeah, okay. So she goes and put on her underwear and she comes back out. And when she comes back out, I'm standing by the lazy boy chair. And we look at each other like,
little shock.
being professional, but like, I mean, I had
Yeah.
already heard about her. I
Okay.
heard that the first Black woman was going to space. So, like I said, I had only been there a year. What happens? My supervisor comes out when a mission gets assigned, and he writes the astronaut names on this board, and then he writes the technicians that are assigned to it next to it. I had already heard, so I was waiting for him to write Dr. Jemison's name up there. As soon as he wrote her name up there, I took the marker and wrote my name by hers. Mind you, I'm only been there a year, so I'm thinking after I did it, I'm gonna get fired.
Right.
But they already knew my personality and stuff, so they were like, we already
Well,
wanted
and
to
you know
sue
how
her.
folks kind of like to match people up based on, race.
I assigned myself to her. I didn't care
Yeah.
what he said. I was suiting up Dr. May.
No, but I was saying I wouldn't be surprised if whoever was
I
in
think that's
charge
what he was
would
going
have
to do
done that
anyway.
anyhow.
Yeah. Yeah, I think he was going to do it anyway because I
Yeah.
had
Yeah. But you made sure.
I made sure. And like I said, I got a little scared because I had only been there a year. But anyway, back to the fit check. So they have to come in once they get assigned, they come in to do a fit check. We have their street sizes, like their regular shoe size and stuff like that. And we usually go up
You call it a fit check?
Yeah, a suit
Okay.
fit check. So they come in, the orange cover's not on the suit at the time. It's just showing you the innards. So it's like a link net material. And then it has like shoelaces, which you'll learn in the book. It has shoelaces in the arms and the legs, kind of like a corset situation.
Okay,
So if
gotcha.
the person's arms is shorter, you would tighten the laces up to make the arm and legs and waist shorter, or vice versa. And back then they didn't have women's suits. They only had men's suits, and they were straight up and down. So I had to do a lot of adjustments for Mae's curves and swerves, because she was, curvy. And her suit had to go up a larger size to accommodate her. And so we had to do like, the tight jeans back in the day, lay on the bed and pull the zipper up. But it was opposite. I would have her bend over a little bit to get that zipper down and come on around. And then we would do the nipping and tucking and adjusting. And I want you guys to know that the astronauts didn't have their own suits. People think they probably got, oh, that's that person's suit. Mae was in that suit that day. Tomorrow, some other astronaut's going to be in that suit. So we'll have to go in and adjust it and test
If
it.
it's the right size or thereabouts, then other people would wear it.
Yeah, exactly. Nobody had their own, this is their suit.
Hey, let me digress for a second. Speaking of that, what did you think about the situation when the female astronaut didn't have the right size spacewalk
You already
suit?
know I was mad about that. I'm like, that is some bull. All these years, really? Y'all don't have it together yet? Really?
So what'd you really think? No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, that's what I really thought. I can't believe that.
Yeah, yeah. It was hard to believe in this day and age that something like that could still happen.
I was just, what's the word? Flabbergasted.
And you probably were saying, well,
that
that wouldn't have happened under my watch.
Yeah, exactly. Somebody would have got meleeed that day.
Hey, listen, we're going to have to wrap it up, but any final words of wisdom and advice for, the young people? A lot of people that listen to and watch this show are currently in school or they recently graduated, and they're still trying to figure out what their next steps are. A lot of them are very interested in a career in aviation and aerospace, but don't know, what direction they're gonna end up going. What's your overall advice, just from life experience and your perspective on things?
Before I get to that one, Vince, I want to say this for the people in leadership roles, to give people a chance. You can't just go by what's written on a resume. You need to actually talk to them, see what they're about. I actually brought people in for interviews. People are so hung up on the HR terminology and things like that, so they don't even give good, they miss out on a lot of good people because they're not giving people a chance. I had more people trained that didn't have any suit tech experience that end up being some of the best suit technicians because it was on the job training. You could talk to somebody, in my case, if they knew how to turn a screwdriver, I could train them to work on that suit. If they had any kind of comprehension level, I can train them to work on that suit. So don't just discard people because they don't fit the little keywords that in the HR list. Give people a chance. And that bothers me. That bothered me a lot. So when I made it to management, I made sure I gave people a chance, and it turned out great. And I know sometimes it won't, but you got to still give people a chance.
No,
You
I'm
know?
glad you brought that up. I think that
Yeah.
brings a very valid point. And, one of the challenges with the modern day of job hunting is a
Yeah.
lot of it is online.
Hmm.
But the artificial intelligence can kick somebody out because
Exactly.
of one little thing, and they may have been the best hire you could have come across.
Thank you. They're
Yeah.
people.
So
They're not a
I'm
piece of
glad you
paper.
mentioned that.
Yeah. And so for the kids that are still going through it and trying to get there, a lot of times we tend to just shy away and shrink down because someone says no to us, right? Don't do that. You know what? No means next opportunity. And rejection is just redirection. Move on and do something else. Don't just dismiss your whole life because somebody told you no for one thing that you wanted to do. It's so many opportunities to do anything you want to do, and you can do anything you want to do. Shoot, I'm a prime example. I didn't even know what I wanted to do, and I did. I
Yeah.
made the best of what was given to me, and just work hard at whatever you do decide to do. Be the best at it. Don't worry about what Sally and Sue and Biff and Bob doing, or what they're making, or how much they're paid, or they got a raise and I didn't. You be your best authentic self and bring that to the table every day. And believe me, it'll pay off, because it definitely paid off for me.
Yeah, couldn't have said it better. I was just thinking of Brigadier General Charles McGee, the Tuskegee Airman,
Mhm.
that lived to 102, and he had the 4 Ps, and one of the ones that stands out flashing to me is
Mhm.
persevere.
Yes, you got to keep going. You
Yeah,
got, because I could have easily been a statistic, Vince, easily in my situation. Because I was living with my sister. So it was like, I'm her sister. I'm not, she didn't look at me as her little kid. I was like her sister. So I could have, been that statistic, pregnant young and all that. But I knew I had a good head on my shoulders. And kids, I always tell the kids, just because you see adults doing something, if it's right or wrong in your little heart, in your mind. You don't have to do it just because a grown up did it. I preach that a lot to the kids because they know what's right and wrong. So just
yeah,
because you see adult doing it, don't just go that way. And that's what I chose to do.
yeah. Sharon, tell us where we can get your Suit Up for Launch with Shay.
Of course, that's it in the background. You can kind of see it back there.
Yep.
On my website, SharonCaplesMcDougle.com. And I'm all over social media under my name as well as under my book's name.
You
So
are. You're on Twitter,
all of
LinkedIn,
them.
um, uh,
TikTok, Instagram, Facebook.
yeah, exactly.
I'm out
All of
there.
the above.
Just Google me, y'all. I'm out
You
there. I'm
might,
all over the place.
right, exactly. Actually, when you do Google you, all of your stuff comes up like,
Yes, sir.
yeah, Miss
Sure.
Popularity.
Well, somebody got to do.
Hey, it's been fun talking to you, but it's also been very insightful about
Thank you.
your path and your career and how it can apply to others
Yes,
that
sir.
that are also trying to go into a great industry. We'll close on that note. I'll let you just. What's your perspective on the space industry as you see it now?
I think it's going really well. I really do like having all of the different privatized programs because it gives more people opportunity to work with the space program and also to actually go into space. Whereas, with NASA, you just have that one sector where you can go into space and work with the space program. Now you have a lot of other opportunities spread around. So I think it's going really great.
Yeah.
Being more diverse and everything.
It is. It's
Mhm.
diversifying on all fronts,
Yes.
women, people of color,
Yeah.
and there's still plenty more opportunity.
And even people with disabilities, you see,
Yes,
going there.
good
Yeah.
good point.
Hmm.
Sharon McDougle, thank you
Yes.
very much for your time. It's
Thank
been a
you for
pleasure
having me.
chatting with you, and wish you the best with your book. And you'll probably be writing another one if you haven't already. So I'm sure we'll
I got
see
to get it
more
illustrated.
than one. Anyhow, take care.
You too. Thank you for having me.
All right, thanks. Wow, now that was really awesome. Thanks for joining our conversation. And as always, with every show, I try to provide as much information and insight as possible into the opportunities and possibilities for anyone and everyone who has an interest in all aspects of aviation and aerospace. So if you or your child or someone else's child or someone you know wants to do something in this very exciting world of aviation and aerospace, I ask that you please share any of my entire series with them. You've been watching and listening to All Things Aviation and Aerospace, presented by Private Air Media. If you haven't already, please subscribe. But until next time, please take care, stay safe, blue skies, and have a great one.